Levar os portugueses mais longe. Ser uma ponte entre Portugal e os Estados Unidos da América. Esta é a missão da Fundação Luso-Americana para o Desenvolvimento. A FLAD nasceu em 1985 na sequência do Acordo das Lajes e por aqui passaram até hoje milhares de pessoas e ideias que ajudámos a transformar em realidade. Promovemos a partilha de conhecimento e experiências através de bolsas de estudo, estágios, prémios e conferências unindo os dois lados do Atlântico. Trabalhamos diretamente com a comunidade portuguesa nos Estados Unidos. Queremos contribuir para que o papel dos luso-americanos seja cada vez mais forte e para que as origens portuguesas sejam continuamente celebradas. Nesta ligação atlântica surgem, claro, os Açores. Pela sua importância geoestratégica de segurança e defesa, científica e cultural, são um ponto essencial na atividade da FLAD. Somos ciência, educação, arte e relações transatlânticas. Há 36 anos a contribuir para o desenvolvimento de Portugal e dos portugueses.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to everyone accompanying this panel this afternoon here on the East Coast, this morning on the West Coast. We're happy to be here today to discuss something that is some importance, especially to the Portuguese American media. How can we continue to reach multiple generations with news and information about our community? We have an excellent panel representing newspapers, radio stations, also online programs as well. I'd like to introduce Paulina Arruda from Wjfd, Ricky Duraes from SIC Internacional SPT, Miguel Avila from Tribuna Portuguesa, Antonio Correia, correspondent of Luso American newspaper in Florida, and also has a video production company. I will give each one of you some time to introduce yourselves and talk a little bit more about your individual projects. I'd also like to extend, on behalf of all of us, the deepest condolences to Professor Diniz Borges, who recently lost his mother. He was supposed to be one of the panelists today, but due to this tragic loss, unfortunately, he cannot be with us. So the question is, how can we continue to reach multiple generations? But let's meet each one of you with a brief introduction. We'll start with Paulina Arruda from Wjfd, located in New Bedford, Massachusetts. Good afternoon, Paulina.
Thank you, Ricardo. WJFT 97.3 is a 50,000 watt FM radio station out of New Bedford. We have been transmitting as WJFD since for over 46 years. But since the 50s, the frequency 97.3 has been transmitting some programming in Portuguese, and it grew as the years went on. As other ethnic groups dropped out, the Portuguese picked up more programming hours. We are an entertainment radio station. We basically play music, but we have a very strong public service announcement component. We have news from Portugal. We have local news. Of course, there's sports, especially the soccer. We have DJs on from 6 in the morning at 10, 9 o'clock, and including the weekends. And then we have also some programming from RDP. We have a protocol with RDP for many years now. Because we are 50,000 watts and because Massachusetts and Rhode Island are not as big as California, we are able to reach all the Portuguese-speaking communities of Massachusetts and Rhode Island, and part of Connecticut and Long Island and Vermont and New Hampshire. So we reach about just over 500,000 Portuguese speakers in the East Coast.
Wonderful. Thank you, Paulina, and congratulations on the great work as always. I will now call upon Miguel Avila from Tribuna Portuguesa to speak a little bit about himself and the Tribuna.
Thank you, Ricardo. It's a pleasure to be with all of you and my fellow colleagues from the media. It's a pleasure to introduce the Portuguese Tribune. We've been in business for 42 years and based in California. We were originally founded in 1979 in San Jose, And now, since 2003, we're based in Modesto in the Central Valley, where most of the Portuguese communities now reside. So in the 1990s, we transitioned the newspaper from being your normal newspaper where bringing news from Portugal to the communities to really being a community-focused newspaper. And that's been our dedication for the last several years. We changed to the current administration in 2003, and we continue to update our formats. We continue to grow also in social media because, again, as we'll discuss in a few moments, we want to reach out to multiple generations. Wonderful.
Thank you, Miguel. And next, I'd like to call upon Ricky Duraes, who is representing SIC Internacional SPT out of Newark, New Jersey. Ricky, for some reason, we're not able to hear your audio. I'm not sure if you are muted. But if you'd like to try to resolve this, we can move forward and then I can come back to you. All right. Next, we have Antonio Correia from Florida, the correspondent for Luso Americano newspaper in Florida, and also has a video production company. Antonio, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to greet all the participants in this panel and thank PALCUS for organizing the event.
Antonio, if you don't mind, I'm just going to interrupt for a second. If you are on a mobile phone, I ask that you place the phone vertically and not horizontally for Zoom purposes.
Oh, sure.
It changes the position of your video. Much better. Now you are upright. Wonderful.
Okay.
Excellent. And if you'd like
to make some adjustments over here. So I've been in Florida for about 15 years. I started first in New York, up in Westchester County. And I have a video production business right here in Florida called Bonita Video LLC. I'm basically in Southwest Florida next to Naples, City of Bonita Springs, Fort Myers, just below Tampa. And we have a kind of a average-sized community of Portuguese Americans over here, around, I would say, maybe around 2,000-3,000 of them. We have a small Portuguese club over here as well. And it's not very active. It's a little old. We don't have our own headquarters. But, they do what they can to keep the traditions alive as much as they can.
Absolutely. Thank you for your contribution this afternoon as well. We're waiting on Ricky Duraes. I believe he left the Zoom meet. We'll wait on him to come back. But in the meantime, we'll go on with the first topic I'd like to discuss before we get into the main topic here is sustainability. We know this is always a big question mark for all media outlets, ethnic media outlets here in the U.S. How do we maintain sustainability going into the future? And this means, how do we survive even taking on new platforms to transmit whatever it is, whatever type of media that we do create? I'll go back to Paulina. Actually, Ricky Duraes seems to be back on. Let's check to see if the audio issue is straightened out. Ricky, can you hear us? And let's see if we can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Yes. So Ricky Duraes is representing SIC Internacional SPT out of Newark, New Jersey. If you don't mind, a brief introduction.
Thank you, Ricardo. My apologies for that situation. My audio just went out for any reason. So I'm here to representing SPT SIC Internacional. We are a TV station broadcasting from Newark, New Jersey for all United States. We are in business for about 30 years, and our goal is to reach all generations of Portuguese-speaking and non-speaking potential people. We have our own programming every day. We also affiliated with SIC Internacional from Portugal, and we are broadcasting 24 hours a day.
All right. Thank you, Ricky. And going back to the initial question now, sustainability, how do we maintain these Portuguese American media outlets for future generations? What is the biggest obstacle, Paulina, to maintain, for example, WJFD?
Well, I mean, we are a business. Like I think all of us here are a business. So the main obstacle and the most important thing is advertisement. There's no advertisement, there's no radio. There could be a huge audience, there could be many listeners, but if there's no advertisement, there's no radio. But to get advertisement, to get audience, we have to be on top of things. And there's some questions that I constantly ask myself, and we talk about a lot of this at WJFD, is why does the community listen to us? What are the benefits of them listening to us? How do they see us? And how important are we to them? So based on that, we see what the needs are, and we can go towards the needs of the community, what they need, what they want, which pretty much goes what the advertisers. I mean, the advertisers, as long as we have programming that attracts audience, the advertisers are in. We constantly have to change. We constantly have to reevaluate radio. Just like any media group, we can't be still in time. Things change, like in radio, in terms of equipment, media, what's going out there, like Facebook, iHeartRadio, Alexa, Google Home. There's many other things that we have to keep on top of and know what is going out there. The other piece also that we have to keep reevaluating is the community, the audience. Who is the community? Where are they now? What do they want now? Because even if I have an audience member in their 50s or 60s now, but if they started listening to us in their 40s or 30s, they are different now than when they were then. Mm-hmm. So we have to keep evaluating the community, the listeners, how much they have changed, what interests them now. And then we have to come up with interesting programming that they like, that attracts them. And I think a very, very, very important piece is the connection of the community to us. And we feel that they are a fundamental part of WJFD. Without them, there would be no WJFD. And we really take seriously our role in the community and what we bring to the community, how we connect the communities, how we inform the community, the connection to Portugal, even the connections between generations. Because a lot of our younger audience listen to us because they started listening at home with their grandparents and with their parents. So we always have to keep that in mind and take that very seriously.
Miguel, I would believe that the challenges are the same for Tribuna Portuguesa. Should we expect to get any support from Portugal, considering that the language is being maintained, that the language is being spread through these media outlets?
I think there's always an opportunity. So the Portuguese Tribune, as a practice, we do not accept subsidies. So, but however, there are a lot of Portuguese institutions, state-owned institutions, who can provide advertising. As Paulina was saying, it is a business after all, right? So I think I agree with what Paulina said in terms of content. We need to adjust the content to the audience, right? And we need to be there for that audience. The one thing I would add is the challenge that we have with balancing between the languages. Obviously, we're doing this webinar in English, right? To attract a bigger audience. And that's the balance that we need to have in all media, all Portuguese media in the US, is what's that balance between programming or articles in English versus in Portuguese. So the strategy that we have is in social media based on all the data and the demographics that we have, it's mostly 70% primary language is English. So therefore, there's a little more tendency for us to do things in English in social media. We usually do it also in both languages, but tendency to do it in English. On the print edition, we sway the other way. It's about 70% Portuguese, right? So to maintain the language as well. So, but what we're seeing is with the evolution of the community, especially here on the West Coast, where there's not a significant influx of new immigrants, that I think that's going to sway a little bit to more 50-50 in the next few years in terms of English and Portuguese.
Antonio, what are some of the challenges to maintain media outlets, for example, in Florida? You said the area that you're in has a Portuguese club. It's an older Portuguese club, which indicates that probably the community there is of a demographic of over 50 or over 60. So what is the secret of maintaining there in Florida, Portuguese media?
I think to address the question, I think this is a two-part question. One, what are we trying to maintain? Because we're talking about our national identity, our culture. We are part of this, this multicultural environment that is the United States of America. So that's part one. And second one, I don't think we are. I don't think we are maintaining what we have. I think we are losing it bit by bit. It's not a dramatic wave that is, just, drowning us on a beach, but we are losing it. And I believe that the reason why we are losing this connection is exactly what my colleague already mentioned, is this seemingly imperative that we have, that we have to defend the Portuguese nation, Portuguese language, Portuguese culture, Portuguese food, to maintain our identity. I would argue that we don't. I would argue that the only way that we're going to establish this, we're going to grow, because I don't think maintenance is an issue. The older population is dying. We are basically talking about how can we reach the other generations to jump aboard. I think the only way we can do this is to embrace other cultures. I think we need to reach not just the Brazilian culture just because they speak the same language, but we need to reach other communities around us and invite us to share our customs, our culture. Our local club over here, even though it's very small, has actually done some things that I have to give them a lot of credit for. They've invited, the Jamaicans, the Mexicans, all the South Americans, of course. We had Germans coming. They tried to create a multicultural fair, if you want. And in this environment, we introduced them to Portuguese food, Portuguese music. And we told them, please, invite us back. We'd like to go to your own community and find out about Jamaican food, about German food, about British customs, whatever. It was not a number. I think we had maybe 50 people that were not connected in any way, shape, or form with the Portuguese. But just like my colleagues are talking in newspaper and radio and TV, I think if we fall into the trap of just trying to reach the Portuguese, we are doomed to fail. I think it's absolutely necessary to reach out for everybody and find our niche within that community so that we can be part of an overall American experience. We are in the United States of America. This is where we are. We need to be part, and we need to basically abide by the rules. There are so many cultures, so many religions, so many languages around here. Try to create a niche for ourselves and create a bubble around us. It's just, in my opinion, it's not going to work.
Antonio, I can understand your perspective. You're in an area where the Portuguese population isn't as significant as it would be in New England, California, or even New Jersey. So the needs may be a little different. But in our particular areas, the population is higher, and there are a lot of Luso descendants that we can also attain through Portuguese media. I
totally understand what you're saying. But you have heard it already from our colleagues that they are trying to maintain. I suggest that we should stop thinking that we need to maintain. We should grow, just like the United States. Go big or go home.
Ricky, I will call upon you with a similar question, but I know Paulina wanted to interject here.
I just want to say that I don't see it as losing the community and losing the Portuguese speakers or losing the Portuguese culture. I see it as changing. And with like every culture and every group and every society, like we are very different from our parents, generations' parents. Things change, and that's what we have to adapt to. And besides, we are a Portuguese culture, Portuguese group community living in another country. So there's always some acculturation. So, and we just have to figure out, I mean, and my experience at Wjfd, and we still transmit 24 hours a day in Portuguese. And one of the reasons we do that is because people tell us they want to hear the language. They want to hear it in Portuguese. Even people that grew up speaking Portuguese but haven't spoken in 20, 30 years, but they still want to hear it, and they want to revive the language, and they want to continue more about the language. So just because you grew up American, you don't speak as much, you might not even live in the community, you still want to have a foot in the community. You still want to know what's going on, and you still want to participate in some things, and you still want to learn, hear the language. You want to know the news of the community, the news of Portugal, the music of Portugal. And that's how we approach it. And we grow, we change with the community. The way we do the programming and radio at Wjfd is very different from 10 years ago, not much, even more than 20, 30 years ago. And that's how to survive, we have to adapt. If you permit me, I know I'm talking too much. I just want to add something to what Miguel said. Wjfd also does not accept subsidies, and we do not believe, especially for media groups, that compromises the media group. But we do accept advertising from Portugal. And I wish they would think of us when they advertise. Because what the feeling I get from Portugal is that they expect us to transmit information or whatever that Portugal needs to the community, and they expect us to do it for free while they pay the media in Portugal to do it. And that I have a problem with. Thank you. I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, please. Thank you, Paulina.
No problem.
We're going to talk to Ricky now. Ricky, your dynamic in the media outlet you work is a little different than any other here, only because you have the flag of SIC over SPT, which means there's a little more support in regards to content, although that SPT is an independent company. So what are the biggest challenges in say, sustaining the programming that you insert into SIC Internacional?
Thank you, Ricardo, for the opportunity. I believe that we need to embrace the journey. You know, I was paying attention to all the comments. I do agree with Paulina that we do need more support, but I do believe as well that we have something in your hands that can make a difference. We need to understand the dynamics where we are, and we need to take advantage. You know, I believe that we can take an opportunity and make that a great accomplishment if we know how to use that dynamic to what is in front of us, not looking too much to the past, but more importantly, understanding what we can do to move forward. Answering your question directly, I do believe that the programming that we do here in Newark is probably the one supporting the station, not the other way around, as you mentioned. I do believe that the people in the United States, the Portuguese people in the United States, and I'm talking about first, second, third generation, they want more from us. They want us to be able to meet their needs. The idea of, let me take a look at RTP or SIC that we have from 10 years ago, I do believe that this new generation deserves the opportunity to have a space, and that comes from institutions like Portuguese Tribune, the radio station or TV station. I do believe that we need to embrace the journey where we are and give the opportunity to the new talent to reach that audience. Yes, we can get support, and I believe that we need support from Portugal, but we need to be able to show them that we are probably the best flag that the country has outside. We are doing, all of us, a great work towards our country. The majority of people that goes to Portugal, well, not in the past 19 months, but prior to pandemic, they went there because they know someone that is from Portugal. They really appreciate the food, the talent, the hard working, and therefore they want to go there. They want to know more. And when they come back, they discover parts of Portugal that are extremely important. So we need to take advantage as a media of that and making sure that we start showcasing what we do, not only for the Portuguese, first, second, third generations, but those that are affiliated to Portugal here. I give you my example. My wife is not Portuguese. Why not people from a different ethnicity, from a different background, to start looking at the Portuguese media groups as an opportunity for them to be informed. I do believe that we have a huge opportunity in your hands, that is making sure that we keep the Portuguese traditions, the Portuguese language, but as well, as Paulina mentioned, embrace the concept that we are in the United States, and therefore we can make a difference even if we need to use the English language to be there.
Thank you, Ricky. I think all of us realize this, but sometimes many don't, that being an ethnic media representative in the United States is a difficult task, in that our audience is very diverse, but we're one media outlet. In American media, if you don't like the programming, you change the channel to something else that's American, and that goes with your interests or your tastes. With Portuguese media, there's one outlet who has to try to serve many different demographics. For the longest time, and I'm speaking Portuguese media, which has existed on average probably around 50 years at its strongest point. So we were looking at about 2.5 generations that were served during those 50 years. So now looking forward, there is a generation that's probably not as attached to the Portuguese culture or to the Portuguese community, but that has some interest in learning more. Now, content. Content is the question. What kind of content can Portuguese media in the US produce that will attract a younger generation, a generation that loves TikTok, that loves Instagram, that is more inclined towards, in many instances, gossip than information? So I'm talking more in a general sense, in a more popular sense. Obviously generalizing this, but there are many different situations. So I know in WJFD, there are many different platforms now where you can go on Amazon Alexa, ask to listen to Portuguese radio, WJFD will come up. iHeartRadio. Miguel, you spoke about how through social media the newspaper is divulged in both languages. I know Ricky with SPT, you guys do much of your programming live on social media to attain other communities other than the Newark, New Jersey community. Antonio, I'm not sure to what aspect that you do has gone into social media. If you want to elaborate just quickly upon that, so that I can move on to the question into my point here. Antonio?
He's muted.
Antonio, we still cannot hear you.
Yeah, sorry about that. You were asking about Florida?
Yes, in your area and in what you do, is there any involvement with, for example, social media or other platforms that may reach a larger audience?
The only media in terms of Portuguese language that reaches this area of the country is the Luso Americano.
Okay.
Nothing else. There's been some effort from some group of guys trying to create a YouTube channel, a radio YouTube channel in Palm Coast. I think it's still active, but it's kind of on and off kind of a thing. So that's very minimal what we have here in Florida.
So I know Luso Americano was published online as well. So that is one platform that can attain a larger audience as well. So now I ask, what kind of content would be appealing to a younger audience, in your opinion, and what steps should be taken from now on? We know this question comes about probably every 10 or 15 years, and then the inevitable, oh, this is all going to end, and it hasn't ended thus far, and this question has come up time and time again. So what can be done now with so much technology and so many ways to promote? What can be done to attract a younger audience and a new generation of Portuguese Americans? We'll start with Miguel.
So that's a great question. But again, I have to remind folks, as Paulina said very well at the beginning, it is a business. And so we need to attract new audiences, but also needs to be an audience that provides revenue to the media group, right? Whether it's through advertising or supporting advertisers, right? So it's not just direct. In our case, it's through subscriptions, right? I think there's probably between the Generation Xers and the millennials, where people got used to everything's for free. I think Generation Z is starting to pick up on, yeah, I got to pay for content, right? So I think some media outlets are able to capture some generations that are now realizing I need to pay for content. But I can tell you during the pandemic, because obviously the Portuguese community, like the entire nation and the entire world, suffered through the pandemic, we offered our online edition for free for about 15 months, right? As our way to say, thank you, we're here with you. We were able to publish the same number of editions, the same number of pages, even though keeping in mind especially between May and October, these are where most of the community events take place on the West Coast, right? And that's what we cover. That's what we cover during that period. We didn't have that mostly for the last 2 years. So how do we make that up? I think one of the things we did, which I think was a great idea at the time, was to really get to do in-depth interviews, get to know the individual behind the individual, right? That's something we used to do interviews. Obviously, we've always done interviews, but this were more in-depth interviews. And it was also articles in the first person. So from different generations, these folks may have been born here, they came from Portugal at an early age, but how do we get that interest in people wanting to read more about this? So it's a balance of doing how's our community doing, right? And then there's obviously we all suffer from this, which is I got to have it now and I only have a minute to read, right? So how do we balance the more in-depth coverage and then the more of, okay, I got to look at this and I'm done. We try to balance that with a lot of photography, right? Especially of community events, so that you don't need whatever language you speak or read, you can look at beautiful pictures and see and get the sense of the events. So in terms of the generational gap, is I think going back to and reaching to them at the different platforms, right? Okay, I remember when Facebook first came out, it was all the younger generation. Then when the grandparents moved on to Facebook, they moved out, right? So they moved on to other platforms. So how do we follow those platforms? But again, it all goes back to, it has to be content that drives eventually revenue. So we can't forget that. We do a lot of things for free, as many of you mentioned, but there needs to be some revenue coming in order for us to continue to grow.
Paulina, what kind of content will attract a younger audience, in your opinion?
I think for us, in a way, it's easy because music is always easy, and music always bridges all the generations and all age groups. And fortunately, Portugal has wonderful, wonderful music now. And they even have music that they sing it in English and in Portuguese. Half of the song English or some of the lyrics in English. So that really helps. And it's the type of music that really attracts the younger generation. Now, the issue of platforms and internets and Facebook, this is an issue that every media group in the United States is facing right now. It's not just us. And every media group is using, and today, I mean, even radio stations are hiring video people because you have to have a Facebook page that you post video. And if you don't, no one's gonna be listening or watching you. So it affects every media group. I think one of a thing that we have, an advantage that we have over other media, and when I say talk to other media group, not necessarily Portuguese, or even the FCC, we've had some issues that we've gone to the FCC and we've had this conversation with the FCC, is that one of the advantages that we have is that we are local and we do everything local. Radio, and I'm going to talk just specifically about radio because that's what I know. Radio in the United States right now is very genetic. Okay, these big media groups, but all the big, like an independent 50,000 watts base station like us is very rare, and especially ethnic. Mm-hmm. Independent, ethnic, 50,000, very rare. And actually, when we went to the FCC, they could not believe that we still existed. Which says a lot about the FCC and how they see the whole market thing. But other American stations, they claim they are local, but they are not local. If you listen to them like I do, Ricardo, if you listen to Fun 107, do you see anything local or hear anything local like we do? The news, events, things, interviews, like during COVID, during the pandemic. We were like 24 hours a day, pandemic. They had nothing. So I think one of the advantage to all generations is that we are local. And right now, 90% of people tune in to radio because they want local. So I think one of the important things is we have to stay local. Mm-hmm. Local, the Portuguese community, and local also what's happening in the American community around, because there's important news also for the community. Absolutely. Another thing that I look at is people tend to go on Facebooks and Twitters and this, and they look at users. I have so many clicks, I have so many this, so many that. That doesn't mean anything. I can go anywhere and click. Doesn't mean I'm listening. Doesn't mean I'm buying at the advertisers, whatever specials they're advertising. What I want is a loyal fan base, loyal listeners that will always come back. Okay? And how do I do that? By giving them what they want. Being local, important information from the Portuguese and American community, information from Portugal. That's another factor that we noticed. Young and old, they like is information from Portugal, news, events, quick and easy, quick, sweet, to the spot, not like a big 1 hour report from Portugal. Audiences, you have to give them 10, 15 minutes. You go more than that, you lose them. Okay, and then you switch to the next station and you do not want that. So we just have to be in tune to, as things change, what they want and what they need. And I think that's how we're going to capture them.
Thank you, Paulina. Obviously, this is a discussion that can go on for hours. We were allotted 1 hour. We have 20 minutes left, so we'll try to get the most information possible in the next 20 minutes. Ricky, through television and through what you guys do there as well, I know there's a focus on local. What kind of content is needed to attract the next generation of viewers in your case?
Thank you, Ricardo. So 2 things that I believe that is extremely important. Number 1 is we need to be short and straight to the point to make sure that we go, that we reach, that first generation but also we put our eye on that second generation. I give you an example. If I post on my Facebook page 30 seconds video, I may get 20,000 views. If I put a 30 minutes video, 1,000 people will see that. So the new generation wants something short, straight to the point. So I do believe that we need to have more content, local content, but in our particular case, from all locals. So I need to have content from Massachusetts to attract people from New England. I need to have content from California. I need to have content from Florida. But more important, I believe that we need to be able to embrace the opportunity that we have. If we think about Portugal, everybody knows Cristiano Ronaldo, for example. If soccer is growing drastically, I will say in a good way, in the United States, I do believe that we need to take the opportunity and have more sport content directed to that new generation. Also, day one, the new generation wants to know what Portugal has to offer to them. I do believe that that's the key point. We need to be able to showcase in Portugal what we are able to do here. So this way, the idea that we not only take dollars to Portugal, but we will be able to bring talent to Portugal can be and should be done by us, by showcasing that new generation. I like in-depth interviews, but I believe on TV, we're going to start a new project very soon that has to do with that second generation. I really don't care if they speak 80% English during that interview, but if they feel Portugal the same way that I feel, I was born there, then I believe that I'm halfway through to make sure that my message gets there in a different way, because that's for me is the biggest challenge that we have. Portugal, in order to invest on us, they need to have a different perception for what we can bring there.
Thank you, Ricky. Antonio, in Florida, I know you said you were in your location on the west coast of Florida, but there is a community like Palm Coast, like Orlando, where the Portuguese community seems to be growing or seems to have grown in the past few years. So there is possibly untapped potential there. What kind of content can be produced to attract this newfound Portuguese community in Florida?
Well, and I think Florida is probably the fourth state with the most Portuguese. A lot of people are moving to Florida because of the weather, naturally, and also because of the politics. Let's not forget about that. Actually, there's a kind of an urban myth thinking that Palm Coast has the biggest concentration of Portuguese. That actually is not factual. Most of the Portuguese who live in Florida live south of Orlando. So we're talking places like Fort Lauderdale. We're talking West Palm Beach. All that corridor on the East Coast. That's where the most Portuguese live. It's not an accident that the Portuguese consulate is actually created very recently. Well, not a few months ago. And a moving consulate to go to Florida once every month. So 1 week out of every month, excuse me, the Portuguese consulate moves from Palm Coast, with armas de bagagens to Coral Gables to respond to the need that exists over here. It was actually a uphill battle that we had with them, but we have a phenomenal gentleman, a diplomat, João Queimado, that is doing an outstanding job. I mean, I think the Palm Coast Honorary Consul is the busiest one in the United States of America. I'm not sure about California, but we have people from California coming to Palm Coast to take care of their business. I don't know how this happens, but going back to your question
exactly. So given that
content,
point, what kind of content can attract?
I think there's I like to touch on two things: the music and the length. The music, Paulina, if you remember, and I was part of that movement in Portugal back in the 80s, where we actually started moving from music in English to music in Portuguese. Chico Fininhos, o hard rock, that became super popular. Portuguese was the way to sing, and just infected the whole country. There was Portuguese groups all over singing in Portuguese. So I don't think that the Portuguese and the English are actually colliding. I don't think this return to English is going to help in any way. The second one has to do with the length. I have just published an interview with through the Luso Americano with the ambassador of the United States, and we did a whole page. I told Enrique Mann that we cannot have a sound bite over here. We need a whole page to explain what we are doing, what the Portuguese is doing. So the content had to include all the points. So Enrique and Luso Americano, to their credit, actually allowed me to have a full page in the Luso Americano to explain using the words of the student ambassador. So I think, I know it's difficult for the Portuguese media because income is such an important matter, but if we want really to reach everybody, we need to stop thinking about small things and sound bites. We need to go for content, yes, but we need to think about the big picture. You just said it, that people need to understand what Portugal has there to give it to them. I'm telling you that they don't want sound bites. They want to know an extent, like, where can I go on vacation? Or where can I actually invest in Portugal? Because the generation we're talking about is not the 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds. We're talking about the 30-year-olds. Those are the ones that actually have the money to spend and to maintain our media available. Just to make short, I think we need an overall strategy in the United States where all the media and PALCUS and the Tribuna Portuguesa and the radios are vital in that mission. When a vital strategy, a global strategy that we can actually use to reach every single community in the United States and let them know what Portugal has to offer. It's a general content strategy that I think we should implement.
The next question, yes, Paulina.
I think if Portugal is going to be involved, Portugal needs to step up and invest in the local media. Miguel is smiling because I say this all the time. No one, and I'm speaking for myself, and each of you will be able to say the same. No one promotes Portugal more than we do. For free. Portugal spends millions all over the world promoting Portugal. With us and in the communities, they spend nothing, and they expect us to do it for free. Well, my answer to that has been for many years, and I have been telling them that I'm not going to do anything for free. There's the news, we do speak about Portugal, there as far as I go. They want more, they have to pay for it. They have to invest in it, not ignore us.
That's the American way.
I just add to Paulina's point, I think it also involves our relationship as media with our local Portuguese officials, right? I think when there's a better connection with a consul general or an ambassador to the US, I think there's a better understanding of what the communities are. Because again, some, let's say, university program gets funding, and then the expectation is the newspaper or the radio covers it for free. And so I think that there's that balance. And again, we're not asking for subsidies. All we're asking is, if you want to put an ad, don't expect the ad to be free. You pay like anybody else.
Now, my next question, and I had quite a few, but we're going to try to condense this. This is usually a topic of division. For example, here in New England, where this has been discussed many times, some media outlets decide to adopt this, others not. Bilingual, is that the way to go? Portuguese and English? I know each media outlet, from newspaper to radio to television, has different needs, different type of viewers, listeners, or readers, but is bilingual the way to go? Miguel, I'll start with you.
It's do that or die. As a pure media outlet, I think the radio still has some more years to go, that they can sustain radio stations with 100% Portuguese. But I think when you have media such as written media, you have to do it bilingual. And as I said, I think right now, if you have anything less than about 20 to 30% of content, you're not going to attract new generations. It's going to get to 50-50 soon in the next few years, and then it's going to go the other way. So I think it has to be And why not in other parts of the country, like Antonio was saying, why not put a Spanish section in Florida? You know, for the Florida, if you're trying to attract Florida, or even in California, right? So I think there's an opportunity for us to look at that. The more we can, again, we call ourselves the mirror of the Portuguese community. And that's because our job, we feel our job is to portray our own community to the outside. So whether it's to Portugal, whether it's to the broader American community in general. So I think, again, to answer your question specifically, it has to be multilingual.
Antonio, do you agree? Bilingual or not?
I know, trilingual, quadrilingual, you call it, polyglottic, you know. Definitely there's got to be some message in Portuguese because we are Portuguese, we are catering to the Portuguese market. But you just said that those are words that we should live by. You know, it's got to be, the language cannot be a pebble on the road. You know, if that pebble is there, move it along and, you know, go after the market. Because I'm sure, I mean, I'm interested in finding out what's happening in other cultures. I'm sure other cultures are interested in knowing what's going on about Portugal. You know, I've been called, I mean, in the middle of the street, I have been asked, I work a lot with government, local government, and they keep telling me, hey, Portugal is doing so well fighting the pandemic. My God, you guys are on the top of the people vaccinated. How do you do it? I thought you guys are just, you know, a small potato here, you know, third world country kind of a thing. How do you do that? And I say, and I'm like, come on, what the heck are you talking about? We are a civilized nation just like everybody else. You know, we have also great doctors and great strategies. You know, this is beyond language. This is a global community that exists that we need to be a part of. You know, so, you know, to use those words, go Portuguese, go English, go Spanish, go Creole. I mean, I know I could tell you a story that happened to me in Bonaire where I actually heard Portuguese in the taxi and they speak papiamento. I mean, it's a mixture of Creole and Spanish and French and Dutch. And I'm listening to Portuguese on a taxi in the middle of the Curaçao Islands. I mean, what the heck? This is a world that we live in. It's a global message that we need to convey. Portuguese is definitely what we are here for, but we got to think outside the box.
So I started with Miguel and Antonio on purpose with this question because I know you're both in print media. So it's read. The needs are different for spoken Portuguese. I'll go to Ricky now. Television, Portuguese television is bilingual, the future as well.
Yes, Ricardo. I look at our demographics right now in my PC, and 55% of the people that following us are on the age group of 55 plus. Means that if you want to embrace the future, you need to start now. And therefore, bilingual, trilingual, as Antonio mentioned, we need to understand the dynamics where we are. And since we are, you know, a national platform, we may need to embrace a Spanish segment, French segment, you know, whatever needs to be done. I do believe that we need to keep some content specific to Portuguese because that's the reason why we are there. But we need to open the doors to be able to attract other communities. I'm going to give you an example. I was approached a week ago by a candidate for the next election from a small town here in New Jersey that came to me and told, hey, can I advertise in your TV station? I'm a candidate in the place where one in each four of the residents are Portuguese. I do not speak Portuguese, but I need to be able to get my message across. So I do believe that that is a small opportunity, and we need to embrace that towards the future. But we need to have a strategy, because if we are thinking one push to one side, the other one thinking that has a better idea, we're not going to go anywhere. I think that that's collectively we need to understand the dynamics and make sure that in Portugal, and I keep going to Portugal because I do believe that we have way more to offer to them. I do not work for free for them. If they ask me to do something for them, they need to pay me for. If they come in here, they need to pay me for it, because, it's one thing is Miguel calls me and say, hey, Rick, can you do something for me? Yes, I do, because he does for me every day, or you're Ricardo. But taking advantage of our talent, we need to stop that. And therefore, if you want, you come to me and you pay me for it. The moment that we all start doing that and stop showing just to show our face there, we gain the respect from there, the same way that we are gaining the respect from other communities around the United States.
Being television, and just a yes or no question, Ricky, do you think that subtitles are an effective method to maintain some sort of bilingual connection?
I do. Matter of fact, that I was working on that with the CEO from a university hospital here in Newark. It's an 8-minute piece, and it's going to be subtitles there. Yes.
Paulina, bilingual future, is that also the future of WJFD?
Right now, I don't see it. Right now, I think we still have a strong enough base. And just by looking all the Portuguese schools, all the universities, the community, I think right now it's all Portuguese, 100% Portuguese. And I think if we are lucky, probably have another 15 years. What concerns me more than that is, will we have advertisers for another 10 to 15 years? That's what concerns me. I think the advertisers will go before the language will go in our situation.
Well, let's hope that's not the case. And we're going to sum this up. We're right on top of the hour. I believe I can go a couple of minutes more. If Graciela, you can just let me know through chat if that's possible or not. But I wanted to sum this up with the major question we're posing today. After the discussion today, and in a more condensed form or condensed response, how can we continue to reach multiple generations going forward? How can we answer this question in a very condensed form to finish up this discussion this afternoon? And I'll start with me. Well, Paulina, we'll start with you. You were the last one to speak, so we'll give you this opportunity to sum things up for this afternoon.
I think we just have to keep paying attention to the audience. I think that's fundamental. We sit down frequently and we analyze who's out there, who's listening to us, what they want and what they need. We take every opportunity to listen to the younger generations, to the older generations, to the in between, to anyone. And we listen to, or even emails that we get or messages, and we listen to what they are telling us, that this is why I listen. This is why I want what I want. And what they tell us that they want is Portuguese, everything Portuguese. And what they tell us that they want is local. So I think that's what we will continue doing for now.
Miguel, how do we continue to reach multiple generations going forward?
I think it has to do in multiple languages. It has to do across multiple platforms. The content has to be diversified to address the different audiences. And by the way, I know there was a comment on Facebook about a comment that may have been controversial that I made about paying for content, right? And as Vicky was saying as well, payment can come in all types of forms, right? So as Vicky said, can be through a partnership, right? So I think one of the things that we've started doing better as a group, media groups across the US, is that actually partner amongst ourselves, because there's a lot of content that comes from all of our communities through us, right? And I think historically, we really haven't connected that much. So I think the pandemic, forced the conversation and us seeking content that forced us. So that's one way to address a bigger audience, really, is to have better connections and partnerships, not just with media, but with community organizations as well.
Thank you, Miguel. Ricky, same question. What can we do to reach multiple generations going forward?
I believe, Ricardo, there is no boundaries. We need to embrace the challenging and take our talent to make sure that we make a difference. pay attention to the feedback that we received every day. I'm 100% with Paulina. We cannot only have a news show. We need to have more content. We need to make sure that we understand the needs of everyone, that embrace who we are as a Portuguese, but also open the door to other communities that have different way of view things. But we can get to them, the same way that we have English music on Portuguese TV. Why not have Spanish music on the Portuguese TV in the United States, and make sure that we embrace that challenge and open the door to become a strong partner to other entities around us, because we are the United States and this melting pot, we need to take advantage of that.
Thank you, Ricky. And Antonio, how do you sum up today's discussion? What can be done? How do you attract future generations?
Well, I have to just echo the words of Paulina and from Miguel. Paulina, eu comecei na rádio. I started on radio myself back in the 80s. So I know I was one of the pirate radio stations, broadcasting a block from a van, and then we got our own building, and then we built an audience starting like that. And Miguel just said it as well. It's globalization. We need a global strategy if we want to make a difference in how the media, the Portuguese communities are perceived in the United States of America. There's got to be some kind of a global strategy with like PALCUS as the perfect vehicle, a perfect mean to probably reach that. And it's like I said in the beginning, it might sound a little dark, but go big or go home. We need to make a splash. The Portuguese is here to stay, and we need to make every we can to reach everybody.
Thank you, Antonio. And just to wrap things up, I want each one of you to let the audience know exactly how they can listen, read, or watch your programming and content. Paulina?
In New England, 97.3, or through Facebook, through our app, iHeartRadio, Alexa, Google Home.
Excellent. Thank you, Paulina. Miguel, how can we read Tribuna Portuguesa,
Portuguese Tribune.com or tribunaportuguesa.com.
Thank you, Miguel. Ricky, how can we watch SPT?
In all the platforms, cable platforms in the United States, also through Dish Network or through the Facebook on SPT television channel.
Thank you, Ricky. Antonio, how can we read Jornal Luso Americano?
Well, Jornal Luso Americano, you must contact with go to the website, lusoamericano.com, .org, I believe. Sorry, I'm not even know. This one, just type Luso Americano. It's an amazing newspaper, which is also bilingual. And I think sometimes there's actually an effort to go something in Spanish and even French Creole. But Luso Americano is an amazing experience that we all share over here in Florida. Without Luso, we really wouldn't know most of what's going on with the Portuguese community in the United States of America.
Thank you, Antonio. Paulina Arruda, owner of Wjfd, Miguel Avila from Portuguese Tribune, Ricky Duraes from SPT SIC Internacional, Antonio Correia, correspondent of Jornal Luso Americano. Thank you to these distinguished guests for participating in today's discussion. Like I said, we can go on for hours. Hopefully PALCUS will give us the opportunity to elaborate more on this topic in the future, but thank you for your valid contribution to this discussion this afternoon.
Thank you, everybody.
And to everyone watching, thank you very much for watching. We'd like to thank the sponsors as well, including Fundação Luso-Americana para o Desenvolvimento, FLADS, and other sponsors who made this national conference possible. Congratulations to Angela, to Gracielle, to the board of directors of PALCUS, all committee members, for once again through the pandemic, and hopefully we're on the tail end of this pandemic, have found a way for PALCUS to be active, to communicate, to reach a larger audience, and continue its mission of defending the Portuguese here in the United States of America. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great afternoon.